Fortnite versus Call of Duty Warzone, a debate that's definitely slowed down within the past couple of years. Both games tackled the Battle Royale format most popularized by H1Z1 and PUBG. And in today's video, I'm gonna find out which one's better. The more cartoony and stylized Fortnite, or the more dark and grungy Call of Duty Warzone. Quick reminder, this is all my opinion, and like I said before, my opinion is right. Okay. Now, normally when making these videos, I would talk about the story between the two games, but they're Battle Royale games, of course they don't have a story. Wait, they do? If we look at the campaign version of Fortnite, Fortnite Save the World, the story generally goes as follows. The game is set after a fluke storm appears across Earth, causing 98% of the population to disappear, and the survivors to be attacked by a zombie-like husk. In other words, it's a zombie survival type of game. Now if we take a look at the story of the Battle Royale, aka the one that people actually give a shit about, and the story for the Battle Royale is, I don't know. Listen, it's just so convoluted with so much going on from other properties, oh my god. If I could describe the Fortnite story in 2 words, it would be an epileptic seizure. All I can say is watch this video by Top 5 Trends and this video by CypherPK, they're pretty good, as I won't really be delving deep into the Fortnite story, rather focusing more on the gameplay and Battle Royale aspect of the game itself. Oh, and I should have clarified this, but Fortnite released on the 21st of July 2017, with Fortnite Save the World releasing on the 25th of July 2017, with Fortnite being announced 6 years prior in 2011. Moving over to Call of Duty Warzone, the game was released on the 10th of March 2020, and the main story of the game goes as follows. Oh wait, no one cares because it's a Battle Royale game. Warzone shares many similarities with Fortnite, especially in the gameplay department. 100 players, including you, jump out of a plane and land on the map. Your goal is to try and kill each other and be the last man standing, or the storm closes in and kills everyone, with the storm being a way of pushing everyone to the center of the map. And this is as far as the gameplay goes, as this also applies to Fortnite, with the main difference being that you jump out of a bus instead of a plane. Now, if I had to choose which game had a better story, I would probably choose Warzone. For one, they're both Battle Royale games and they don't need a huge convoluted story, which I think Warzone does a good job at. It's very simple and it mainly focuses on the gameplay. Fortnite's story is just all over the place. There's just not that much to say about it. Moving over to the gameplay aspect, however, I think Fortnite has better gameplay. It's way simpler, easier to follow, and I think it can be more fun. The building aspect really helps with this, especially in fights. Instead of just focusing on aim, you also have to focus on building in order to defend yourself. I mainly like how Fortnite brought a new way of fighting to the first-person genre. Also, when you land in Fortnite, you have to go find weapons that are randomly scattered throughout the map. Now, this can also apply to Warzone, but in that game you can have a base loadout that you can customize and switch weapons. Now, I personally like how in Warzone you can have a loadout just in case you don't find any good weapons. But also, I like the aspect in Fortnite that you have to use the guns that you find. It makes you use weapons that you've never used before and you may like them. It brings an aspect of replayability as you don't know what to expect next. On the topic of replayability, if you ever get bored of the normal Fortnite game mode, there are tons of other ones you can play. Basically, there are other game modes that players can create that others can play. They can consist of parkour maps, PvP maps, even Among Us. I think this was a great move by Epic, along with creative mode so that players can make custom games with their friends. On the other hand, Warzone does some of these things too. Warzone has a couple different games that you can play, but not as many as Fortnite. Players also can't create their own levels, so really the only games you can play are the ones that Warzone has made for you. This is something that I think holds back the game. Most of the game modes within Warzone felt very similar and lacked a difference, and that's why I think Fortnite does a better job with gameplay. Fortnite and Warzone kind of work the same way when it comes to different characters that you can play. None of the characters really offer any advantages, it's just the way the skin looks. And this is something Fortnite cares about way more than Warzone does. Fortnite has hundreds of different skins, none of them adding anything to the game, but 10-year-olds just want to buy it because it looks cool. This also applies to Warzone, but instead of 10-year-old kids, it's middle-aged men.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Either way, I find it pretty f***ing lame, since every operator or character can do the same thing. It just seems bland and lazy. Something that isn't lazy, however, is the map for both of these games. Both of these maps are giant and have a ton to offer, and that definitely heightens the experience when playing both of these games. Because when people first see these maps, they're like, oh wow, there is so much space. Just say that when the circle's closing in and there's only like 250 square feet left. One thing I also love about these maps is that there are so many interiors you can go into. Pretty much every building on these maps have an interior. It shows that these buildings have a function and have stuff inside of them. It gives them purpose instead of just being a backdrop. And it's nice to see that you can interact with a lot of things in these maps. For example, in Fortnite, you can break down walls, build walls, destroy buildings, bridges, basically altering the terrain to gain an advantage. And unfortunately, that doesn't play as much of a role in Warzone. Nothing is really breakable in Warzone except for vehicles and windows, which definitely can bring you out of it. It'd be nice to be able to run a car through walls or shoot through walls. On the topic of vehicles, these maps are littered with them, especially in Fortnite where every car now is basically drivable. Everyone has mixed feelings about vehicles in Battle Royale games, but I personally like them. It's a good way to get across these giant ass maps without walking. The buildings in Fortnite also serve more of a purpose than the buildings in Warzone. While they are a place to take cover, they're also used to gather materials, giving them more of a purpose. Another thing to mention about the Fortnite map is that it changes about every season and every big update. So basically the map changes every couple of months. And this is awesome because it allows for replayability and exploration to see what's changed. Fortnite's map can't bother to stay the same for about 2 months, while GTA 5's map can't bother to change for about 9 years. Just had to throw that out there. Now, don't get me wrong, the Warzone map changes too, but definitely not as often as Fortnite, which is definitely something I can praise Epic Games for. And that's pretty much why I think Fortnite's map is better. When describing the graphics for these two games, they are polar opposites. I can't look at them from the same perspective because they're both so different. Warzone is obviously focused on realism, as Call of Duty has mainly focused on before, while Fortnite prioritizes its more stylized, cartoony look. I mean, notice how everything jiggles when you hit it, giving it a sort of upbeat bounce, while in Warzone everything's realistic, cold, dark, grungy, and has a way darker tone than Fortnite ever could. Yes, I know that Fortnite got an update a couple months ago and now it looks really well done with shadows and ray tracing, but I would honestly choose the Warzone graphics. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate Fortnite for its different art style. It's very unique in a world where first-person shooters are constantly that grungy textured game, with realism always being the main focus. I think Fortnite looks great in its own way, but personally I think Warzone gets me into a better mood for playing a first-person shooter. It's very enjoyable, real, and it makes me feel immersed. I mean, if you have never heard of Fortnite and I told you it's about shooting and killing people, you probably wouldn't think it looked like this. So in terms of the graphics, I think Warzone does a better job. Well, in the first-person shooter terms at least. Despite being able to play alone or with other players on your team, I think teamwork is much more focused on in Warzone. Yeah, having a team makes the game easier in both games, but having a team is definitely much more useful in Warzone, especially since there's a large focus on hunting bounties. It's also useful for when you go to the Gulag. Oh my god, this is the first time I'm bringing up the Gulag in this video. That's practically all Warzone is known for. Basically, the Gulag is the place where you go after you die on the map, and it's an area where you fight a player who had also died, with the winner being able to go back to the game and the other having to disconnect. Pretty cool idea, especially since people don't want to wait that long to get back into another game after dying. It gives them another chance. Yeah, I know there's reviving in both of the games, but the Gulag is way cooler. Anyways, back to the team building aspect. Fortnite is definitely easier to play solo queuing rather than Warzone. Not that the fights are necessarily easier, but there's just a lot less to worry about. But if you have a team, that's good too. As weird as it is to say, Fortnite's a relaxing battle royale game. I mean, obviously it's not relaxing during fights, but just roaming around getting materials, I don't think people realize how tranquil and nice it is. It's kind of relaxing, and most people probably wouldn't want that in a game like this. But I think it's a good amount of downtime when roaming from place to place between fights. Yeah, the action can be awesome and thrilling when you succeed, but sometimes it's nice to take it back a notch, you know? And then Warzone is like, fuck that. Warzone is just explosions, people talking, things flashing on the screen, sirens blaring, it's all over the place. And that's also good too. Warzone does a good job at keeping you alert, constantly giving you notifications, everything being loud, the game telling you about bounties in the area. I mean, the game is basically screaming in your face. And while I do like this, I kind of prefer the more simplistic, not as pushy design of Fortnite. Yeah, I know Fortnite alerts you of stuff in the area too and gives you notifications, but it does it in a more subtle, relaxing type of way. Especially when you're playing late at night and you're kind of tired, Fortnite's more easy on you while Warzone will wake you the f*** up. I think Warzone does a better job at keeping my attention. Because while I like downtime, like how I mentioned in Fortnite, I do also love action. And I think that Warzone gives me more things to do, like bounty hunting, which is something that Fortnite has, but I think Warzone does it a little better. That's not to say that Fortnite is boring between fights, however, because there's a lot of stuff to do in that game as well. You can come across secret layers and fight enemies. You can rob vaults and do missions. It's really cool. but I prefer the way Warzone does it. Warzone is a pretty grounded game. It's not futuristic, it doesn't have crazy wacky things like GTA Online. It's set in its time period, which is our time period, and does its own stuff with it. And I think this justifies Warzone having a better understanding of what it is and its own personality. When I first started playing Fortnite back in Season 2, it knew what it was. It was a Battle Royale game, but it was Fortnite, and I really think it was growing into its own. But after a couple of years or so, Fortnite started implementing other properties into the game. Marvel characters were added, Spider-Man was added, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was added, Rick and Morty was added, something that they should probably change. It became less about being Fortnite and rather an 8-year-old's imagination. And I think this is what hurt Fortnite the most. Yeah, I'm sure Epic got a lot of money from these companies and a lot of people liked it, but they just made Fortnite a mess, filled with a mishmash of different properties. And that's probably one of the laziest thing Epic Games could have ever done. Instead of grabbing people's interest with the Fortnite gameplay itself, it just implemented already popular properties. Now, there's nothing wrong with having these characters as skins or background props. The main issue lies when the game starts to rely on these different characters and properties. Like, why does the gameplay have to rely on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? That's stupid! While on the other hand, Warzone knows what it is. It's grounded in reality. It doesn't just add an abundance of different characters and properties. The game adds stuff that enhances the gameplay and things that actually belong in Warzone. And based off of what I said, if I were to choose a serious, grungy, first-person shooter game, I'd go with Warzone. If I had to choose a more stylized, cartoony game, I'd choose Fortnite. Both equally have their strengths and weaknesses. But if I had to choose going off what I said, I would probably choose Warzone. Fortnite's got a ton of bells and whistles, and it comes in close second to the Battle Royale game I'd like to play. I think that Fortnite is extremely enjoyable, and you can have a lot of fun with friends in the game. But at the end of the day, I cannot stand emotes anymore. They are so